When we think of the masters of animation, they are usually, understandably, directors and animators. Deservedly so, as they are so key to bringing magic to life, whether through paper, pixels, or clay. However, behind a great animation director is a producer who helps keep the budget in control, while also inspiring and giving input to the filmmakers. We all know about the studio heads who also act as producers, like John Lasseter, Chris Wedge, Travis Knight, Leon Schlesinger, Peter Lord, Lou Scheimer, Fred Quimby, Walter Lantz, and other notable figures. However, what about the other producers, the ones who jump from film to film, helping out how they can? So I've decided to give them some deserving attention and count down the most underrated animation producers. John C. Donkin. Knowing me, it's probably little surprise I went with a producer who every single one of his credits come from Blue Sky Studios. He began his career at the studio producing on the Ice Age series and their second feature, Robots. He was also a major contributor to the Rio films, producing both chapters in Carlos Sardinha's beautiful Brazilian escapades. For his efforts, he was even nominated for an Oscar for the scratch short Gone Nutty and a Producers Guild Award for Robots. As a Blue Sky Studios fanboy, I appreciate his continuing dedication to the company and keeping things shipshape. Clark Spencer. Part of the studio leadership at Walt Disney Animation, you have certainly seen his name listed as a producer on some of your favorite Disney animated films of the current century. Lilo and Stitch was his first big break, and even after Chris Sanders left the production of American Dog, Spencer played a role in its smooth transition into Bolt. He served as a producer on the more recent Winnie the Pooh movie, and then started a successful partnership with director Rich Moore on Wreck-It Ralph, which continued into the production of Zootopia and the upcoming Wreck-It Ralph sequel. He just recently won an Oscar for Zootopia, and he also has 2 Producers Guild Awards to his name for Wreck-It Ralph and Zootopia. Certainly deserving. John W. Burton. I'm going classic with this pick. Edward Seltzer was not a particularly well-liked producer at Warner Brothers Cartoons, with many Looney Tunes directors butting heads with him for his lack of a sense of humor. Their relationship with John W. Burton was a lot more friendly, and while his time in charge of the Termite Terrace was not long, he produced many great cartoons. One of them, 99 Bugs, even became the first Bugs Bunny cartoon to win an Oscar, and he was very quick to mention the short's director, Friz Freleng, and the animators who worked on the film in his acceptance speech. For his services at Warner Brothers Cartoons, I thank Mr. Burton. Bonnie Arnold. The current president of feature animation at DreamWorks, Arnold has definitely managed to work really hard to reach this point. Her first major stint in animation was quite an impressive one, serving as the producer of Toy Story, production with a lot to live up to, due to being the first computer-animated feature and made primarily by people who hadn't made a feature film before. With Toy Story proving to be a success, she went on to produce Disney's Tarzan. Her first producing role at DreamWorks Animation was on Over the Hedge, but the film she really put her mark on was the How to Train Your Dragon series. The first film changed directors with very little time left in the production, and she managed to guide it along while working closely with Chris Sanders and Dean DuBois. She stayed on as a producer for the sequel, and even though she is now in charge of the studio, she will remain a producer for How to Train Your Dragon 3. With these impressive pedigrees to her name, Bonnie Arnold is definitely one of the smartest producers in the film industry. Allison Abbate. A producer who has worked on all sorts of animated films, the variety of projects she has worked on is impressive. Starting her career at Disney, Abbate eventually produced a slew of projects at Warner Brothers. She produced the animated sequences in Space Jam and Looney Tunes Back in Action, as well as producing The Iron Giant and Corpse Bride. The latter film was not the final time she worked on a stop-motion production, as she also produced Fantastic Mr. Fox and Frankenweenie. She's now back at Warner Brothers, having executive produced the Lego Movie, and is currently producing the upcoming fully animated Scooby-Doo movie. There's always a good chance you've seen her name on a favorite animated film. Don Hahn. A major producing force during the 90s Disney Renaissance, Hahn actually started out as an assistant animator at the studio, before eventually moving up to production manager and eventually as a producer on the Roger Rabbit short Tummy Trouble. Hahn went down in history as the first producer to be nominated for an animated feature in the Best Picture category for Beauty and the Beast, and also found himself going up to the Golden Globe stage twice to accept the Best Picture award for Beauty and the Beast and The Lion King. He eventually produced The Hunchback of Notre Dame and Atlantis the Lost Empire, and was then nominated for his second Oscar for the short film The Little Match Girl. He continues to work at Disney in a number of roles. He has been involved with the Disney Nature films, executive produced the recent live-action version of Beauty and the Beast, and most importantly, he directed, produced, and narrated the documentary Waking Sleeping Beauty, an incredible account of the Disney Renaissance, responsible for so many films we love. So, yep, Don Hahn is definitely an important figure in Disney history. Darla K. Anderson. We always give credit to the amazing directors at Pixar, but there's a reason their producers receive such admiration in the DVD bonus features. Certainly the most prominent producer at Pixar, aside from John Lasseter, is Darla K. Anderson. She has produced the most Pixar films, starting with A Bug's Life. Since then, she has produced Monsters, Inc., Cars, and Toy Story 3, the latter of which earned her an Oscar nomination for Best Picture. She is currently producing her fifth Pixar feature, Coco, directed by Lee Unkrich and set for release later this year. Even though the Pixar team jokingly named Darla from Finding Nemo after her, it's clear the amount of respect the Brain Trust has for Darla K. Anderson. And finally, the last underrated animation producer I will name is Toshio Suzuki. We all know about Hayao Miyazaki and Isao Takahata's role in founding Studio Ghibli, but there was an all-important third major component who continues to keep the studio alive, and his name is Toshio Suzuki. To quote Miyazaki himself, "If it were not for Mr. Suzuki, there wouldn't have been Studio Ghibli." Playing a major role in getting Nausicaa of the Valley of the Wind off the ground, Suzuki has worked closely with Miyazaki on all of his films, and the two clearly have a genuine trust for one another. Suzuki even played a role in sending an invitation to Michael Dudok-David so they could collaborate on the film The Red Turtle. People have been wondering about the future of Studio Ghibli, but Toshio Suzuki is thankfully still around to make sure things are running smoothly. So I now hope when you see these producers in the credits, you'll appreciate their roles in the creation of these animated films. See you next time.